My name is Arthur FLUG. I'm the Executive Director of the Kupferberg Holocaust Center, and I welcome you here today for this very, very special event. You're going to find this morning's program to be a program of challenges. The rain, people who were scheduled to speak called and said, I'm on 42nd Street trying to get to the Queens Midtown Tunnel, but please go on without me. I've had other people who call up saying our color guard is stuck in a traffic jam on the Long Island Expressway. The Holocaust Center, as I checked it this morning, has not yet been flooded out. There is still parking in the parking lot, and so taking all that into account, the fact that I asked our scholar in residence, Rabbi Eisenberg, Friday, I sent him an email saying, based upon the weather reports, can you please go ahead and put in a word with God? And the response that came back is, my relationship with God today is a little tenuous. Having said that, what I'd like to do is welcome you here and say how proud I am to have so many people here. On a day like today, it really says a great deal about the people of Queens and the supporters, and for that you owe yourself a great round of applause. We thank you. Since our color guard is stuck in traffic, I'm going to ask Hannah Deutsch, a survivor, someone with a very unique story, and now the past commander of the Jewish War Veterans of Queens County. I'm going to ask you all to stand as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hannah.
Veterans and all those who were veterans who are not wearing caps, please salute. The rest of you, please put your right hand on your heart and pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much. If you look at the program, I'd now like to call, excuse me, please stand, Cantor Salzem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Cantor. Our program now reads Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld, Young Israel of Kew Garden Hills. For those of you familiar with Rabbi Schoenfeld, he was one of the founders of the Holocaust Center and has truly been an outstanding supporter of the Holocaust Center these many years, and I consider him a personal friend. Rabbi called me this morning and said he is not feeling well and he would have difficulty getting out, but he said we have someone here today who is going to stand in for Rabbi Schoenfeld. Please, I should say this, please note that unlike Rabbi Schoenfeld giving the invocation now, our clergyman is not wearing a yarmulke, but he makes up for it. So I'd like to call Father Patrick Flanagan to the stand. And as he comes up, Father Flanagan is from Campus Ministries at St. John's University, a very strong partner with the Holocaust Center. Father Flanagan.
Let us pray. To speak in this place of honor, in this place where unprecedented mass crimes were committed against God and humanity, are archived and memorialized, it's almost impossible. In a place like this, words fail. In the end, there can only be a dread silence, a silence which itself is a heartfelt cry to God. Why, Lord, did you remain silent? How could you tolerate all this? In silence, then, we bow our heads before the endless line of those who suffered and were put to death. Yet our silence becomes in turn a plea for forgiveness and reconciliation, a plea to the living God never, never to let this happen again. We come here today to the Kupferberg archives, yet we cannot fail to come. We had to come. It is our duty before the truth and the just due of all who suffered, a duty before God. We implore the grace of reconciliation, first of all from God, who alone can purify our hearts, from the women and men who suffered in the Holocaust, and finally the grace of reconciliation for all those who at this hour of our history are suffering in new ways from the power of hatred and the violence which hatred spawns. By God's grace, together with the purification of memory demanded by this place of honor for those who experienced the horrible Holocaust, a number of initiatives like Kupferberg Archives have sprung up with the aim of imposing a limit upon evil and confirming goodness. This is our hope, that this place of memorial will gradually become a place for constructive thinking, and that remembrance will foster resistance to evil, and love will triumph. In the Holocaust, humanity walked through a valley of darkness, and so here in this place, which memorializes those who walked in that valley of darkness, I would like to end with a prayer of trust, with one of the Psalms, which is also a prayer of Christians. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside restful waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of darkness, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord all my life long. Amen.
Thank you, Father Flanagan. I know I shouldn't say it, but I can't resist. I don't think anybody falls asleep in your congregation. Okay. Having gone through our opening ceremonies, I would now like to call your attention to the driving force behind the creation of the Holocaust Center in Queensborough Community College, the president of the college, Dr. Eduardo J. Marti.
Thank you, Arthur. And thank you all for being here today. It's really a wonderful, wonderful occasion, and we are making our own sunshine. We may not have it here, but as always, we have marched on and we have made the center a reality. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you for your welcome. But thank you most of all for your tireless dedication to using the lessons of the Holocaust to demonstrate how prejudice was the enabler that permitted the world to turn a deaf ear and a blind eye to what was happening in Nazi Germany. Thank you, Arthur, for understanding that this center is a laboratory where we learn from the lessons of the Holocaust to ensure that our 15,000 students leave us with the skills necessary to stop bullying, to combat prejudice in every form, to speak out when someone is singled out because of their religion, race, sexual orientation, or national origin. I think Arthur FLUG deserves a rousing round of applause. Now, today is a very special day for all of us, but it's a very, very special day for Arthur FLUG, because today is Arthur FLUG's birthday. I know his family is here, and they are joining in this celebration that we're giving for Arthur with all of us. So would the family please stand and be recognized? And now welcome to all of you. Welcome to the community leaders, the volunteers, the friends, the students, and alumni who have worked so hard to make this day a reality. This facility was built with the work of many. Many hands were part of the building process. There were the elected officials here that believed in us from the very beginning. There were the volunteers, survivors and their families, and many friends who have kept this center going for over 24 years. This day is an important day for all of us, but I dare say it must be very especially important to our wonderful survivor volunteers who now know that what a lot of people thought could not happen has happened. This center, because of your work, will forever stand as a beacon of civility in Queens. Because of your work, this center will ensure that when all the survivors are gone, our students will carry on the banner that will spread the word of what happened in the Second World War. This is your center, and thank you. When I began my tenure as president of this fine college some 9 years ago, I became aware of the existence of the Holocaust Resource Center. And from the first day, I became interested in bringing the center from the darkness of the basement of the library to the forefront of the college, where it now serves as a bright, magnificent symbol that we at Queensborough Community College stand proud against prejudice in all forms. Some thought that this was a lofty goal, especially for a community college. But here we are. Those of us who understand this college know that we are an oasis of hope, a fountain of opportunities for many to achieve a better life. And those who really know us understand that we believe that the preparation for life supersedes training for an entry-level job, that the historical context, the critical thinking skills, the aesthetic appreciation, and good communication are the foundation that translates to a better life. Our students will leave our college knowing how to ensure that prejudice is not tolerated in any form, and that this is the understanding for the basis of a civilized society. But before I tell you why I was so interested in providing the appropriate setting for this important supplemental educational activity, permit me to acknowledge the work of Dr. William Schulman, Professor of History and former chair of the department. He and Dr. Schmeller, the long-serving president of Queensborough, whom I succeeded, started this resource center over 20 years ago. So for over 20 years, Materials were collected. Lectures were organized. Materials were printed and distributed throughout the world. This little center in Queens was from the very beginning a very loud voice in the quest to ensure that our students were aware of the Holocaust. We owe it to the founders. We owe the founders a debt of gratitude. And I know that Mr. Schulman, Dr. Schulman is not here today, but I expected that Dr. Schmeller was here today. Is Dr. Schmeller here? He didn't make it either. Well, please join me in thanking both of them for their vision. But back to why this building is important. Let me first state what this building is not. It is not a museum. It is not a memorial. It is a laboratory. It's a laboratory that provides our students with the tools that are necessary to combat prejudice and hate crimes. Here, we provide the historical context based on the lessons of the Holocaust that teach us that the very essence of the Holocaust was prejudice, that ability to dehumanize a group of people just because they were different. Here, we teach our students to speak out. We teach our students that prejudice starts at the grammar school. We teach our students that bullying, if left unbridled, turns into prejudice. If prejudice left unbridled becomes institutionalized, and when prejudice becomes institutionalized, it formulates the basis of massacres and genocides. Here, we use the lessons of the Holocaust to ensure that we never stop speaking out when we see someone being attacked because of their race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. But here we do much more. We are a repository of literature from the Holocaust. We serve as a research center. When we invite scholars to speak, we serve as a community center. When we display exhibits about massacres, genocides around the world, and of course, through our permanent exhibit on the Holocaust, we serve as a place where the community and our students can study the root causes of these cataclysmic events. But always, always, we keep it in the forefront of our minds that our purpose is to serve as a place where we educate the future workforce and the future leaders of New York City. Sorry. And we believe that this education is not complete until our students are fully aware of the impact of unbridled prejudice. And we know that these are important lessons that cannot be taught in a basement. We know that these are important lessons that deserve a prominent place, a place that through its beauty and prominent location tell all who come through our gates that this is a priority in our educational offerings. While some people understood the importance of this vision, many others thought it could not be done. Many withheld their support until they saw that it was real. Permit me to thank publicly those public officials who stood with us from the very beginning, the people who made this building a reality. Senator Padovan was there from the beginning. As a leader in the Senate, he was out of the gate with funding. But you know, we need both houses to support us. And Assemblyman Mark Weprin got the New York delegation together to support and get funding from the Assembly. You know, Mark got me an audience with Speaker Silver. You remember that day, Mark? Remember how I was late and you were very nervous? And then when we meet with the Speaker, Speaker Silver, he looks at me and with his booming voice, he said, "Young man, what are you willing to give up for this center?" And I said, "All other projects." And he looked at me, and from then on, things began to move. And then we had the city, because you know, when we get money from the state, we have to match it by the city. And we had Assemblyman David Weprin, who worked hard to ensure that we got a match from the city for the state allocation. He led that fight. And of course, our borough president, Helen Marshall, and before her, Claire Schulman, they were on our side. Borough President Marshall not only added to the funding, but she provided the funding for the dramatic permanent exhibit that you will see at the Holocaust Center. And federal officials as well provided funding for exhibit and programming. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in applauding them for their effort, for their vision, for their belief that we were doing something important. In addition to capital funds, over the year, many people have given of their time to the center. There are present and past members of the advisory board that have guided the operations of this center over 2 decades. It is because of their wisdom and hard work that we have clearly defined missions, we have a very clearly defined mission, and we have a solid path to follow. Will the past and present members of the Holocaust Center Advisory Board please stand and be recognized? Come on. Buildings become empty shells of promises unless there is consistent support and renewal of the vision. And while some understood the realities of what was needed, only some were willing to step forward. We're very fortunate that a quiet but strong gentlewoman, Harriet Kupferberg, believed from the very beginning that something important was happening here. She understood that this could not just be a flash in the pan, and those were her words. She understood that we needed to find a way to ensure the operation of this center in perpetuity, so that the light of this beacon of civility could never be extinguished. She pursued all of us. She pushed all of us in her gentle way. From the first meeting with the architect Charles Tannhauser, that wonderful man who made it his personal mission to make this place of wonderment, she was insistent that we use Jerusalem stone because she saw how beautiful it was when she landed in the Tel Aviv airport. She was there ensuring that the wall of the terrace would not detract from the effect of the building as you came through the gate in the college. She was there helping me plan the future funding for the programming of the center. And she believed. She believed so much that she made the college and the Holocaust Research Center a priority in her charitable giving. She knew that only through an endowment that would ensure the operation of the center in perpetuity, we would continue to have this programming. She knew that only a permanently restricted endowment would protect the center's operations from the vicissitudes of politics. She made Queensboro Community College and the Holocaust Research Center the main priority of her given portfolio, and she pledged $1 million towards the permanently restricted endowment. For her unwavering commitment, for making this center a priority in her life, the CUNY Board of Trustees named the center after Kenneth and Harriet Kupferberg. We are forever in their debt. I am sorry that Harriet is not here to see the fruits of her labor. But I know that somehow she's watching us and she's telling us, let's get away from being a mom-and-pop operation and join the big leagues. Will the family of Harriet and Ken please stand and be recognized for the work of her mother? Thank you. But this is not the work of one person alone. Many others have made this center a personal giving priority. Many of you are here in the audience. Thanks to Harriet's gift and that of many others, we now are halfway through our goal. With the individuals who named opportunities or named portions of the center and helped Harriet's goal be what it is today, please stand, those of you who are, and I don't want to embarrass you, please stand. Please stand. We owe it to you. We're halfway there. The goal was a $5 million endowment. We have about $2.5 million. Your very presence here tells me that you have a connection to this center. If there's any lingering question as to our mission, as to how we operate, as to where we're going, please ask us. We want to be clear about what we want to do. And it is our responsibility to ensure that you know what we're asking of you. And what I am asking of you is to help me, to help people like Harriet and the many others who have already made this center a priority. I'm asking you to make this center a priority in your personal portfolio. We need to get to the $5 million goal. Once we get there, this fund will generate an average of $250,000 per year. And this will ensure the continued operation of the center forever. The college will take care of the salaries, we'll take care of the lights, and we'll take care of the upkeep. But this public-private partnership will ensure that our students, for many years to come, are educated about the Holocaust, and that by using the lessons of the Holocaust, they can come to understand that unbridled prejudice is the basis of all genocides. Most of our students have experienced some sort of prejudice. Help us ensure that we give them the tools to combat it. Help ensure that these 15,000 students per year serve as ambassadors of civility throughout their lives. Helps us ensure that through education, we fight the root causes of prejudice. Help us ensure that the horrors of institutionalized prejudice will never, never happen again. Now the work begins. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Dr. Marti. And now, no great introduction because all of you know this. I'd like to introduce our guest of honor today, the Honorable Asaf Sharif, Consul General of Israel in New York. Mr. Sharif. To give you a chair.
Can I call you Eduardo? It's not our first meeting. Thank you for your speech. I listened over there. And thank all of you. It is a great honor to be here in the opening of this center. I'm not a stranger to Queensborough College. This is my third visit here. And although the first 2 times were great, this edition makes it even a better place. So I want to thank you. When I was last here, I think the first time I was here, it was 2 years ago, you told me about your vision, and it's always great to see that the vision became reality. So again, thank you, and thank everybody who helped building this facility, this building. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke in the UN General Assembly, and he presented the world leaders with the protocols of Wannsee Conference, where Nazi leaders met and planned how to kill the entire Jewish community of Europe. He then showed the sketch of the death camp in Auschwitz and Birkenau. Last week, the columnist Roger Cohen in the New York Times said, maybe it's about time that Israel will stop using the words never again. Now, we cannot stop using the words never again, and we will not stop using the words never again. We cannot because the Holocaust is part of the Jewish DNA. It is part of our education, it is part of our history, and it will always be. And we will not, because as long as there are people who are trying to say that this was a lie, and as long as there are people, including leaders of countries, who sits among other nations here in the UN, saying that the Holocaust never existed on one hand, and on the other hand saying that they want to wipe Israel off the map, and building long-range missiles that could only be effective with a nuclear warhead. We cannot stop using those words, and we will not stop using those words. It's not only because of us. As I said, it is part of our DNA, but it's much bigger. When I read about this center, I read that they are trying to educate and to make sure there is a research and a remembrance. It is much bigger than just the Jewish people. If you look at the ignorance around the world, the fact that there's no tolerance, we still have a lot of work to do, and we still need to fight. I want to quote Elie Wiesel, who dedicated his life to remembrance. He said, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. With each testimony in your archive, we will protest, and we will continue to protest as long as we can, and we will never fail to remember." I'm sure this center will be very successful in capturing the era and recapturing the memories of those who were lost. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. Dr. Marti, I want to thank you for those great birthday wishes. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, opened my eyes, and smiled. And not because it was my birthday. I said, Arthur, you're 70 years old, and you finally found out what you want to be when you grow up. It was really nice. I have found the perfect job, and it has to do because not only the position, but the people I work with, and I thank you all for that. When you got your invitation, we realized after the invitations were sent out that there was something that was overlooked. We sent out 16,000 invitations, and it worked well because 4% is a good return. We're doing much better than that here. We found out that not only are you here because this is the opening of the Kupferberg Holocaust Center, but you're here because of Sally Sachs. Sally, you here today? I saw you come in. Sally, stand up, please. You came in with your son, your daughter. You here today, Sally? Yeah, I'm here. Good. There is Sally. Stay there. Stay there, Sally. Sally, from Poland, born in Częstochowa, Poland, survived the Nazi onslaught, survived the death marches, and now a vital part of who we are. And we're here also for some woman who couldn't be here today, Ellen Alexander, born in Germany, escaped on the kinder transport at age 6, never saw her parents for another 7 years, and works here at the Holocaust Center as a volunteer. And Steve Berger, Steve, would you stand up? I saw you. Steve Berger, slave laborer from Hungary. Steve is not only in demand by students on campus to speak, Steve travels all around the country talking about the Holocaust. And also Hanny Liebman. Hanny, will you get up? Hanny is one who, at age 16, was picked up, sent to a concentration camp along with her mother and grandmother, and her last remembrance is seeing her mother wave a white handkerchief through the slits in the boxcar, taking them east. And we're also here for Ethel Katz. Ethel, will you stand up? Ethel is one of our best, most in-demand speakers. And we're here for Eddie Weinstein. Eddie, stand up. Eddie from Treblinka, escaped twice from Treblinka and suffered the betrayal of his community members. And we're here for an Anita Weisbart. And would you stand up? So many of these people, all Holocaust survivors, all coming to the forefront as being outstanding teachers of what happens. And we're also here, and many of you are here, and I don't even know your names, but we're here for those countless children who, right after the war, when it came to a Rosh Hashanah meal or a Passover, Seder, they sat down and they looked at their parents and say, how come I don't have a Bubby or Zadie? Or why aren't there any aunts and uncles here? We're here because they're here too. We have taken today and made this special day an opening, so when we find that in the United Nations, people such as the president of Iran gets up and says in one breath, there was never a Holocaust, and in the second breath he says, but we will annihilate the survivors of the Holocaust, by opening the center here today on October 18th, 2009, we are telling him that he will be no more successful in his goals than his Nazi forebears were in achieving their goals. Because of what we're doing here, not only for our Jewish students, but for all our students, we will prevail. During the course of the academic school year, I do about 20 to 25 presentations a year at churches, synagogues, mosques, political organizations, civic organizations. And the reason I'm so much in demand is not that I'm an excellent speaker, it's the honorarium is a two-figure honorarium. And I know the extensive budget organizations get to run Yom HaShoah programs or Holocaust programs. So when I speak to them, and when I sit down and I listen to the introduction sometime, somewhere along the line, and it's just what Consul Sharif said, somewhere along the line, someone introduces me, and before he introduces me, gives a short, dramatic presentation and pounds on the table or raises his hands in the air, or as they used to do in the 1960s, the power to the people salute, gets up and says, never again. And whenever I hear that, I want to jump out of my seat and grab him and start shaking him and say to him, you know something? Never again is not enough. Just saying never again means never again, I'll sit down and then I'll have a cup of coffee and I can go home. Never again means there has to be a next step. And the next step that we have taken here at the Kupferberg Holocaust Center is to make all the suffering, the combined suffering of the people who are victims of the Holocaust, we turn that into a dynamic program where when you study the Holocaust in our center, you come out and you are prepared to work against hate crimes in our community. Yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in College Point. A rally was held in College Point, and I'm happy to say that two of our very great supporters, Mark Weprin and Assemblyman Mark Weprin and Senator Toby Stavisky, and by the way, both of these people have seen that we get good checks from the government on that. They've been outstanding on that. And we were in College Point because a week ago, 48-year-old man went out at night to buy a pack of cigarettes, and he was stopped by two other men who found him. He's gay. They beat him. He went into a coma, and he is surviving that coma. But is that any different? Is that any different from the Nazis rounding up the gays in Germany, having them wear pink triangles to show who they are, and sending them into concentration camps? It's not any different. 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, members of a congregation in Far Rockaway were going to Morning Minyan. And when they went to Morning Minyan, they found spray painted on the doors of their synagogue swastikas with the words, "Death to the Jews." Is that any different? Is that any different from what we do or what we saw happen in the Holocaust? A year ago, I was asked to attend a press conference in Richmond Hill. Young man, Indian, a Sikh, had his turban torn off and his hair cut off by two boys who were out to avenge some real or imaginary insult. And I was asked to speak there, and what I brought along was something for visual effect. It's a photo that many of you seen. That photo is one that shows an Orthodox Jew with his yarmulke on, his tallis, his tefillin, and he's praying as two Nazi soldiers are cutting off the payas that he has on his ears, Okay? Is that any different from what happened in the Holocaust? And what we do is take that challenge and we put together a program so our students, whether they are Jewish or not, will know that there is a legacy from the Holocaust and it is something that they study and they will have to attain. It is a powerful, powerful lesson to them. We are able to do this because we have put together an amazingly powerful staff. And I'd like to recognize some of them, call them up here. The Assistant Director of the Holocaust Center, Ayala Tamir. Ayala, would you come up here, please? Ayala comes to us representing a younger generation, but brings with her a strong background in architecture, in art, in trauma, in history, in music, and this insight which she has brought to add to the Holocaust Center's overall program has allowed us to undertake this year what we call the Arts Initiative, and it provides the Holocaust Center with an outlook and study that really has been done before. I want to call also to, I was going to say to the beam, I want to also call also to the stand Rabbi Isidoro Eisenberg. Rabbi Eisenberg is known to many of you here as a rabbi. He was a rabbi in the local community for more than 30 years. He's now our scholar in residence. But because of Rabbi Eisenberg's role as a scholar in residence, every single semester we have put together an outstanding program on various aspects of the Holocaust, and those programs and those exhibits that are put together are now being used in schools in California, in the state of Washington, in Texas, in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, in Virginia, in West Virginia, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Florida, and throughout the Northeast United States. And we thank you for all that you have done for us. But there also is another people that we would like. The people from Tech Architects. Are they here? I know one of you stood up and said, please stand up. You're going to see a building today that is absolutely amazing in what has been put up. You have to think of Kristallnacht, and you will see that building. And you will know exactly what the message of the Holocaust is. Now, I don't know if he made it in because he was flying down from Boston, but John Carney. John, did you make it in? No, you didn't. John Carney is head of KPC. John, you got it. Good. John, happy landings. Okay. John Carney is someone who KPC we met with, and he led the design team that put together the exhibit that you will see as soon as this program's over. The charge we gave to John Carney was, we want you to design an exhibit unlike any other exhibit ever created, because my goal is to have happen when someone says, I'm going to the Holocaust Center, the response should be Washington, D.C. or Bayside. That was our goal. And you will see how close John Carney brought it to us. And also, part of the team that we have here is sitting on the dais right behind me. The elected officials you have here have been more than generous to us. You know, having come from a political background, you get people come in, and sometimes it's a hard sell, and sometimes it's an easy sell. When we called for a meeting with these two people, they knew exactly why we were coming, and they came across. And added to this, who was not here today but came in a little late, is Assemblyman Rory Lantzman. Rory, we thank you so much for that. Okay, well, and because we have such an amazing staff we put together, there are other people here. Patricia Thomas, would you stand up? Patricia, there are times I think I run the Holocaust Center. Patricia is in charge of the office, and Patricia is one who always sees to it that things get done. And also joining us right now, two longtime and consistent friends, Borough President Helen Marshall and Councilman David Weprin. Thank you both for coming. And because we have put together this amazing staff, I want you to see what we have done. Will those students here who are interns in the Holocaust Center please stand up and come up front? Those students who are our interns, please come up front. Ashley, Michael. Jonathan. Okay, there's some more coming. I want you to know something. We have a program designed for our students. And these young men and women come in here on their own time, and they have to study about the Holocaust, and then when they're ready, they are trained to interview a survivor. After they interview a survivor, they have to come back and report on that. And some of the reports that we get back are absolutely astounding. We get comments such as, I couldn't believe when I asked her where she came from, she said she came from hell. And when I listened to her story, I agreed she came from hell. Or the one who said, as she was telling me her story, I closed my eyes and said a prayer. Or the one who said, Dr. FLUG, is it okay if I send her flowers on Mother's Day? One of the people who were not able to be here today, Paul Cavallari, one of our interns, called me up and he said, I am really amazed at what this woman did and what happened to her. Do you think it would be okay if I took her out for dinner? I said, why not? But all of them have made a commitment not only to study about the Holocaust, or not only to go ahead and interview a survivor and learn what happened to that survivor, but all of them have internalized what they have listened to. All of them have taken the information and they have been transformed, where student after student has said to me, Dr. FLUG, my kids will know about this. Now, we always worry, how do you teach the Holocaust when you don't have a survivor? And the answer is, it's these students here, and we thank you. Thank you very much. We need a picture. Okay. Thank you. I would like to call for greetings. Again, I have to preface everybody by saying, being a strong supporter, I'd like to call Mr. Alan Dobrin, Executive Vice Chancellor of the City University of New York.
On behalf of the Chancellor and the entire City University of New York, I want to thank the Queensborough community for this glorious effort that they've done here. In particular, I want to thank Eduardo Marti, and I want to thank the Kupferberg family. And I want to also acknowledge Senator Toby Stavisky, who's not only a senator, but she's the chairperson of the Higher Ed Committee and a great champion of higher ed in the entire state of New York. If I would have stood before you 10 years ago, I would have clearly understood the need for this resource center. But I never would have thought 10 years ago that somewhat serious people who are a national leader, would be standing up in front of the world and saying the Holocaust didn't happen. And there would have been people who listened. That was inconceivable. So I understand why this resource center now is much more important than could have ever been conceived 20 years ago when people thought it was necessary, and it was necessary then. I see this resource center as a place that will help us assure that when evil is in the world, we'll recognize it, as a place to make sure that we will take that evil seriously, as a place, unfortunately, for people to learn what evil human beings are capable of doing to each other, and a place where people will learn what happens when good people are silent. When I was waiting today to come up and speak, I had the privilege of standing with Jeff Weisenfeld, who's in the audience, who's one of our trustees, and Jeff is a very wise man. And I looked around and I said, I'm amazed, that so many people would come out, on a horrible day like this. And Jeff wisely said to me, many of the people in this audience have been through much worse. And it's in that spirit and in a spirit of humility, I just want to thank you for the privilege of being able to spend time with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobrin. And now I'd like to call Helen Marshall. Now, Helen Marshall is a borough president of the Borough of Queens, a longtime friend. Whenever I see Helen Marshall, I just want to go up and give her a bug. She's that type of person. She's been so supportive and so prompt in helping every request from the Holocaust Center. Helen Marshall.
Thank you, Dr. FLUG, for your dream that we're all so happy to participate in. I'm proud to celebrate the grand opening of the new home of the Harriet and Kenneth Kupferberg Holocaust Resource Center and Archives. The reason that I'm late is because in spite of the weather, we had the largest turnout ever in our walk for breast cancer this morning. Rain and everything. To date, we have raised $700,000, and the cure is closer and closer and closer. As I stand before you, my heart is full for many reasons. This building is a symbol of what individuals, institutions, and communities can do when they work together for one common purpose: to create a more humane world. This new home of the Holocaust Resource Center and Archives could not have been built without the leadership of many. The first is Dr. Eduardo Marti, president of Queensborough Community College. When he arrived at Queensborough, he observed the center in the basement of the library and determined that the center would become a focal point of the school. He immediately recognized the importance of the archives to future generations because of his own personal journey. Painted in his experience of oppression and hate, by memorializing the archives of the past, he could impact the future generations. And that's what we're all about. The future is in the hands of our young. It's in our hands right now to make sure we're nurturing them and educating them and giving them all of the right ideals that they can make this a better world. Dr. Arthur FLUG's dynamic programming, nonstop outreach to all segments of our community has increased the center's presence in Queens. New York State and throughout the country, his focus on relationships between history, told by Holocaust survivors, and to all of our students at Queensborough Community College, provided a unique learning opportunity to learn from the past. We must remember the evils of the past so that those who suffered did not do so in vain, and hopefully to make sure that hate is removed from this world. And yes, I was there yesterday at the march in College Point. There was a tremendous turnout, and we all held hands. It was a wonderful experience. We cannot tolerate hate, not in the United States of America. Really should be no place in the world. And most of all, I remember Harriet Kupferberg. The Kupferberg family has really been so generous to our borough, and particularly in our colleges. I'm happy that the center is named after Harriet and her husband, Kenneth Kupferberg, whose historic gift to Queensborough Community College in 2007 ensured the center's programs will operate perpetually. Harriet not only provided financial support, she worked tirelessly and spent her time and energy to honor her commitment to the college. She was Dr. Marti's partner. There was nowhere Harriet wouldn't go to tell people the importance of their missions. I know she is smiling down on us right now, and her efforts will always be remembered. As a member of the City Council, when I went into the council in 1992, there was no education committee there. And so I waited a little while, but then I went to the speaker and I told him that I would like to do something that's meaningful. He gave me a committee immediately because of my 9 years in the Assembly. And so I didn't want to, I cherished that but it was confidential. It was where we were overseers of our colleagues. But in 2 years, I went to Peter and I said, Peter, I want to do something that makes a difference in the lives of the people of our city. And he said, Helen, I went from 35 members to 51. I've run out of ideas. I said, I have one. He said, what? I said, a subcommittee on higher education. I had served for 9 years on the higher education in the state assembly, and I am a teacher by profession. Well, what he did not make it a subcommittee, he made it a full committee. And I'm delighted with the City University is one of the most important things that we have in our city. It is the basis of our large middle class. Myself and my 2 children, and even my husband, went for 2 years to the City University, and then he wanted to go away to a campus. We are all indebted for the great education that we received there. And this center, the Holocaust Center, rounds out education. It rounds it out to get to the heart of everyone, to understand that we have a responsibility to all of our neighbors, our friends, and to our country to stamp out hate. No matter what our financial position, ethnicity or racial background, now I have the privilege and responsibility to spend your tax dollars. I have allocated $2 million from my capital discretionary fund for the Holocaust Resource Center. You can all take pride in that, because it means that we as the citizens, you have given me the responsibility and the privilege of spending your tax dollar. It means, particularly that it's a public college, that each of you have contributed to this center. When you pay your taxes, that's where it came from. So let's give yourselves an applause for that. This new center will enhance and continue its mission to educate current and future generations about the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and hate by reflecting on the past, learning in the present, and protecting our future. And I have one more responsibility. Dr. Marty, would you please step up? This is a declaration of honor, Office of the President, Borough of Queens. This declaration acknowledges the Harriet and Kenneth Kupferberg Holocaust Resource Center and Archives, and Dr. Eduardo J. Marti, President of Queensborough Community Center. On the occasion of the grand opening of the new Kupferberg Center, this new center will enhance and continue its mission to educate current and future generations about the ramifications of prejudice. Not only prejudice, but racism and hate. And by reflecting on the past, learning in the present, and protecting our future. This powerful message in opposition to all forms of hatred and bigotry will unite the community and enhance the understanding of all. Therefore, I, Helen M. Marshall, President of the Borough of Queens in the City of New York, do hereby declare Sunday, October the 18th, 2009, as Harriet and Kenneth Kupferberg Holocaust Resource Center and Archives Day in Queens. Okay. Okay, and done at Queensborough Hall, Kew Gardens in the City of New York on the 16th day of October in the year 2009. And that's for you. Congratulations.
Hey guys, let's smile at me.
I'd also like to thank Dr. FLUG, who has worked tirelessly on this project. He has devoted the last couple of years on making it a perfect place. He gave me a tour of the building. It was very impressive, and you're all going to be very surprised when you go there. It's taken the latest technology to the greatest heights. This is going to be a living center, a living center. When people go into this center, they realize that we have a job here and we must perform that job, and that's bring our world together. Thank you very much.
Helen, thank you so much, especially the part about all the time I put in. My wife will be very happy to hear that. Thank you. And now, in putting together our program on hate crimes, we came across a very, very unique individual who has become part of the overall Holocaust Center program. I was contacted by a friend at the New York State Division of Human Rights talking about a hate crimes program and using our Holocaust survivors as the basis of that. And as a result of that, I was introduced to Commissioner Galen Kirkland, who was the New York State Commissioner Division Human Rights, and our task was to put together a program dealing with hate crimes. Now, having a background in curriculum, what usually happens is you're given a charge by a superintendent or an executive and say, form a committee, you form your committee, and you put together a program. This committee was unusual in the fact that one of the leading members of the committee was Commissioner Kirkland. That's never happened before. He came in, rolled up his sleeves, and we put together a very powerful program, resulting that on May 15th of this year, we had over 300 teachers and administrators come here for training. Commissioner Kirkland.
Good morning. I am deeply honored to be able to speak to you today at the opening of this new facility for the Kupferberg Holocaust Center. I bring greetings from Governor David Patterson, who is one of the most intelligent and honorable public servants that I know. As I stand here today, I think back to my own childhood, where I was raised by my single mother, raising me and my two brothers in Harlem during the 1950s and 60s, when the civil rights movement was at its most intense period. And during that period, I read a book by a woman who had survived the Holocaust in Poland. I had never read anything in my life before that portrayed people, Nazis, who were so full of hate and so devoid of any compassion or humane instincts. It was something that was terrifying. And then at that time in my life, it also served to help me as a young person of African descent in the United States. It helped me to rationalize what was going on in the society around me that had so much scorn and contempt for me and my people. Because of the fact that the author of that book, that survivor of the Holocaust, described how almost a whole society had gone mad. And I realized that so many of the people who I saw on television attacking the demonstrators in the South and saying such vile things about people of African descent had that same madness. And at that time in my life, I decided to be a lawyer and to fight for social justice. The fight against hate goes on, unfortunately, in this state of New York. The Division of Human Rights doesn't just handle individual complaints of discrimination. We are also mandated to go to those communities that are traumatized by the most heinous hate crimes that you can imagine. I spent many hours, many days in Patchogue, New York, where Mr. Marcelo Lucero was murdered on November 8, 2008, a man of Ecuadorian national origin who was walking down the street minding his own business with a friend when he was surrounded by a young group of young teenagers who stabbed him to death for no other reason than that he was Latino. And later I began to work with the mayor of Patchogue to bring together the good people of that community to fight against hate. And it turned out that the mayor found out that same day that we were meeting that the Latino adults in his community did not even feel free to walk the streets to come to an English as a second language course because they felt that they might be attacked. This is the United States in 2009. We must do whatever it takes to stop hate, to create rallying points for the good people in communities that need to stand up and fight for those who are in need. I am grateful that we've had the opportunity to collaborate with the Kupferberg Center, the Kupferberg Holocaust Center, to bring education and guidance and preparation to educators here in the city of New York so they can confront bias in school settings. And I look forward in the future to continue to work with Dr. FLUG and the other people here at the center to continue the fight against hate in the state of New York. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'd like to call back to the post, Cantor Zip.
a dream realized. A laboratory, a school where young people can come and learn, not only a Holocaust resource center, but a place where young people can learn about prejudice. But it doesn't happen just like this. 20 years, you said, Dr. Marty? 21. Amazing. But it doesn't happen because it takes people like who are sitting up here, who have given their lives, given their help, their strength to make it happen. Whether it was Dr. FLUG, Dr. Marty, whether it was Frank Padovan, Mark Wepern, David Wepern, Helen Marshall, and before her, Claire Schulman, Toby Stavitsky, Rory Lantzman, Jim Gennaro. All of these people have done something. But there's something that people like yourselves who are sitting here this afternoon must continue to do. You must continue to do one word in the Hebrew language, zechor, remember, and teach the younger generation to zechor, remember. A song that was sung on the lawn of the White House at the gathering of thousands of Holocaust survivors. I wrote it many years ago. Each and every year, we sing a prayer for those we love, for all those we care. We light 6 candles, remembering them. They gave their lives for Kiddush Hashem. Beaten, hungry, and bodies worn, marked with a number, with a little star. Yes, on their arm a little number was a little yellow star. Auschwitz, Dachau, Treblinka, and Babi Yar. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, let's all remember. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, Zechor, Zechor. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, let's all remember. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, Zechor, Zechor. Our homes, our temples, were all aflame. So much evil in one madman's name. The air was thick with smoke and fire, deadly flames leaping higher and higher. We light that candle for those who died. Let's say the Kaddish right here today. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. A candle for Mama and a candle for Pa. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, let's all remember. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, Zechor, Zechor. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, let's all remember. Zechor, let's stand together. Zechor, Zechor, Zechor. Zechor, Zechor. Zechor, Zechor. Am Yisrael Chai, Chai.
Can't thank you. The Vice President of St. John's University, Joe Shiami, serves as the chairman of the advisory board of the Kupferberg Holocaust Center. And it's through Joe's efforts that not only have we been able to form a group with a dynamic program, but we, at least twice a year, have a program with St. John's University that brings over the students and the faculty from St. John's University and presenting programs related to the Holocaust. And I'd like to call on Joe Shiami, Chairman of the Advisory Board.
Good afternoon. Indeed, I have a feeling that today is the day the Lord has made. And I thought as we were at the cancer walk a little while ago, and we had some 500 students from St. John's, and I told them this morning where I was coming right at 11 o'clock, they said, please, on behalf of all of us, they were all gathered at the UC, to wish Dr. Marti and all of you their best wishes. And I bring you congratulations from Father Harrington, who was obviously unable to be with us today. As the rain was pouring down on the cart before, I thought to myself, these are definitely tears of happiness. But there probably was a time when we cried here on earth for those 6,000 souls, 6 million souls. And I thought, those millions of drops that are coming down today are tears of happiness for us because of this edifice, because of the Holocaust Center that you're going to see in a little while. And those 6 million people who passed on at some point, I can't imagine what their lives were like, but I would like to think they are resting in the palm of God's hand, and that today they are pouring their tears of happiness on us. I am very honored to be the chairman of our advisory board, but as with all things in life, I am not alone. Sitting right in front of me are several of my predecessors in this position, Dr. Sandra Delson, Dr. Owen Bernstein. I have not seen Ann Morse here yet, but would all the members of the board please stand so that you can be recognized again, please. Jeff, I know Jeffrey is out there. The only message that I want to leave you with today is that besides the honor, there's a responsibility, and we all have a responsibility, and I know I've completed my responsibility, and I'm asking you all to please join us as members of the Holocaust Center. And yes, that does mean a financial giving, a financial contribution, so that we can make Dr. Marti's dream of the permanent endowment come true. In whatever way that we can do that. I know that as I entered, we received the program and a brochure on how to join, how to make our contribution. So please join with me, as I've done, as I know many of you have done, but we all need to join in the Borough of Queens. The Borough of Queens, as we all know, is the most diversified in the United States. But a very integral part of that diversity is the Jewish and American Jewish community. And so we've got to get behind this 100%. The last word I would say to you is that the reason we have to do this is because an injustice against any one of us is an injustice against all of us. And so the Kupferberg Holocaust Center is a memorial, not only to those who've passed on, but it will be a living legacy and a message to every one of us as we walk through those hallowed halls to remember the past, but to remember never to allow it again for the future. Thank you, and God bless you for the honor.
Before I call on our elected officials who want to make brief presentations, I want to call on someone special. Many of you know her. I got to know Ethel Katz about 5 years ago, and it was one of the most riveting experiences I've had to get up and hear Ethel talk. Ethel is a survivor, and Ethel asked to say a few brief words on behalf of the Holocaust survivors here. So Ethel, would you please come up?
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to share with you this momentous occasion of opening of the Kupferberg Center. I want to tell you why and what I feel about it. In my mind's eye, I see and I hear my father speaking after we have survived an attack. He said, "Who will tell the world of our despair?" Daddy, I am doing it. The survivors are doing it. The students of the Kupferberg Center, the Holocaust Center, are speaking out and telling the world of our dark days. I had a family of 7 members, parents, sister, and 3 brothers. I am the only survivor. Hitler marched in to our city July 5th, 1941. The atrocities began immediately. The first thing what they did is they eliminated the intelligentsia. Among them was my brother. 450 professionals were taken out to the forest and machine guns. This was our first massacre in our city. Then, on spring 1942, the atrocities, with greater ferocity, with the determination, the Germans began the final solution. Complete destruction of the Jewish people. How did they do it? By roundups and actions. The roundups took away hundreds of Jews to labor camps from which no one returned. Then followed the actions. What was an action? A very well-organized murder attack. By the thousands, men and women and children was shipped to the gas chambers in Belzec. We survived, my family, we survived action, and we escaped from the city into the village, into hiding. We persevered for 2 years. We were in and out from Hitler's paws. Eventually, March 8, 1944, the Hitler's henchmen caught up with us. Very loyal to the Führer, they followed and executed his orders. They left me for dead. 2 weeks later, the Russians liberated the area. I found the bodies, my father, my sister, and my 2 brothers. My mother had died before the war. She was lucky. I found the bodies, and a Polish youngster helped me to bury them. He said a Christian Kaddish for Jewish people. I returned to the city, recuperated, and disaster struck again. What happened? Hitler counterattacked. I had to hide again. I found an attic in which I found a false wall. I had where to hide. However, 2 days later, the Germans occupied the whole house because the battleground was right in the city. I hid in the attic. I came with 10 slices of bread, no water. Hunger and thirst is the ultimate torture. I was there for 4 months. I broke up the 10 slices of bread in pieces. I allowed myself an ounce of bread a day. But thirst is 1,000 times worse than hunger. I felt I was dying. I couldn't swallow anymore. I had to risk it. I went down to the house with 1 German in the house. He was sick, and I found water. So for 4 weeks, I had no water. No words to describe the torture. July 22nd, the Russians liberated the area. I crawled out. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. I couldn't eat. It took me a year to stand upright. But I am here in this beautiful, holy, sacred Kupferberg Center. Why is it sacred? Because we are doing sacred work here. We, the survivors, transfer our history to the students. And from my experience, I know they will tell their children and their children's children. I know they will do it because it was the greatest crime in the annals of history perpetrated on innocent humanity. And the world must know it. The world must know it, what they did to us. We must enlighten, educate, explain, make them understand what prejudice does, what hatred leads to. They must see the results of hatred. We must work for a better world. It should never happen again. We must open the eyes of those who are blind to the truth. The Holocaust happened, and we must preserve the memory of it. Because we, the 90-year-old survivors, whenever God will call us, decides we should be resting in heavenly Florida. We must remember it, and because then, when we are in Florida, who will tell the world what happened to us? Well, the answer, the Holocaust, Kupferberg Holocaust Center will do the job, will preserve the memory. I thank you very much.
Wonderful. Now you know why I asked Ethel to speak. You will notice shortly when we end the ceremony and go into the Kupferberg Holocaust Center that you'll see the mission of the Kupferberg Holocaust Center on the wall. And our mission is, and when the last survivor is gone, who will tell of the Holocaust? We thank you so much, Ethel. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Mark Kupferberg. Mark.
Thank you all so much for coming today. Our family is so happy that you have come to celebrate the grand opening of the center that is named in honor of our parents. We cannot begin to thank all of the volunteers, contributors, members of the college community, and public officials who have all made this day a reality. Harriet's long-term commitment and Ken's encouragement and support are examples to us all. Harriet's enthusiasm to build the center was inspired by Dr. Marti's vision to get the center out of the basement. She loved the idea that it would be the physical and emotional centerpiece of the Queensborough experience for generations to come. So many said it could not be done, but Harriet was optimistic and persevered because of the center's core idea, to remember the horrors of the Holocaust in order to build a future free of hate. The work to make this day a reality is in the spirit of the Jewish tradition of planting a tree whose fruit only will be enjoyed by future generations. Harriet helped plant the tree. Now it is our responsibility to nurture the tree so its fruit of knowledge nourishes future generations of students here at Queensborough and in the wider community. Please join us to ensure the center's promise to future generations. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for those kind words. I want to call on several people to come up for presentations, but I also like to recognize one of our people who are here, a former board member who has taken a very, very active and dynamic lead in addressing the injustices that we see, and that's Dan Drum, a member of our Holocaust Center Advisory Board and also member of the Queens Gay Pride Committee. Dan, I saw you come in. We thank you and wish you luck. Okay? Yeah, I can't say that. No, the election isn't over. Okay? And now, one of our really good friends and a personal friend, New York State Senator Frank Padovan.
Thank you very much, Arthur. Arthur is a neighbor of mine. Our kids grew up together. As a matter of fact, both our sons were in the Scouts together. Arthur was the den leader of the Cub Scouts. I was his assistant. He's come a long way. But I've gone nowhere. Anyone who's been to Vad Yashem or the museum, Jewish History Museum in Battery Park, leaves with a searing experience in terms of the Holocaust and all its implications. And we've heard so many things today, particularly Evelyn, where we have been reminded, if we had forgotten, and I'm sure we had not, of the impact on a very personal level during that horrible time prior and during World War II. We build upon the accomplishments of those who precede us, and Dr. Marty and others have spoken about the people who came up with the concept, went to Dr. Schmeller, President Schmeller, convinced him to allow that space, unused space in the basement, to be used, and all of the things that happened thereafter. My involvement began about a decade and a half ago when a lovely lady by the name of Ann Morse, I don't know if Ann is here today, she's in the back, there she is, who got a hold of me. Ann was active in our local school board, School Board 26, and she invited me to come over to see the center and the archives, and I was happy to do that because I had not been there before. But she had a motivation. She was a very, very sneaky lady. She wanted money. And she brought me there and said, listen, this is what we're doing. And I walked in this room, and there were these wooden crates where various documents and programs are being sent all over the country, being used as the basis of curriculum about the Holocaust. And she said, you know, Frank, if we don't get some money very quickly, we're going to have to shut part of this down. Well, we were able to, and as were others that followed. So I thank you, Ann, for having brought me into this wonderful, wonderful venture. There's one thing that, one thing we should be aware of. The Holocaust Resource Center goes beyond the horrible era prior to World War II and World War II and the 6 million who suffered and died during that terrible, terrible time. It deals with other acts of inhumanity, other holocausts, other genocides that have taken place over a period of many years. Rwanda, Manchuria, the Armenian genocide. And it has within its 5,000 books and 1,200 records documentation about how all those things happened and what they meant. One of the things we've done in New York State a number of years ago is mandated that these things be taught in our schools, our requirement. But the teachers also need the curriculum, and many of the teachers, for one reason or the other, don't have the information they need to do that. And so the archives provides the curriculum, the method and the means to educate the teachers, who then, as has been said here many times, will ensure the fact that those generations to come will be properly educated. So that is the value of the center that goes beyond its focal point, obviously, the Holocaust. And we're grateful for all of that, and I thank you very much. And I'm pleased to present to you, Arthur, a proclamation which honors you and Dr. Shulman, who started it all in many ways, and to our president. Where is he? There he is.
Thank you, Frank. I'd now like to call on, representing both the State Assembly and the Senate, New York State Assemblyman Mark Weprin, New York State Assemblyman Rory Lansman, and New York State Senator Toby Stavisky.
Thank you very much, Arthur. I'll lead off with my fellow state representatives here, but it's really a pleasure for me to be here. And Doctor, you've done a great job of thanking so many people who were part of this project. This really is something that throughout my career, has been something that I've worked hard towards. And when Dr. Marti came to me about this idea of actually putting a center together to house the archives, I was so encouraged and so happy. And I have to mention Eduardo Marti again, because it really was special to have this new president of Queensborough Community College, born in Cuba, came to the United States as an immigrant, to make the Holocaust Resource Center such a cause for himself and for us and our community. And I was very proud of, Senator Padovan alluded to it, but one of the first bills I co-sponsored with Nettie Mayerson and others was the bill that mandated the teaching of the Holocaust and slavery in our schools. And this was the perfect venue for the students of this area, for the hundreds of thousands of people students who go to school around here, to have a place where they can come and learn and continue our goals that Mrs. Katz talked about of educating and to teaching people and to carry it on from generation to generation. I know my colleagues want to say a quick hello, and then we'll make a quick presentation without reading it to Dr. FLUG that we have from the state legislature as well.
We've been talking about the origins 20 years ago, but let me tell you that every time I come on campus, and Queensborough is in my Senate district, and I'm proud to not only represent Queensborough, but also chair the Committee on Higher Education in the State Senate. But every time I come on campus, I'm amazed, because I remember 40 years ago, many of you remember my husband, Leonard. Leonard was assistant to the president of Queensborough, Kurt Schmeller, and was the acting dean of administration at Queensborough. So to contrast the 40 years ago, and really there was nothing much but Quonset huts, if you can visualize that, with what has occurred today, it's remarkable. I marched yesterday through the streets of College Point with Danny and with Mark Weprin and with Rory Lansman and the borough president, and a lot of people who spoke out against hate, whether it be hatred against someone because they are African American or a Sikh or anti-Semitic or homophobic. Hate is a four-letter word that we've got to eradicate from our vocabulary, and I was proud of the people who marched yesterday with Arthur, with Dr. FLUG, because we sent a strong message that it has no place in our society, and the beacon of light and hope and intelligence that the Kupferberg Holocaust Center represents, a living laboratory, not just to the people who are here in this room, but their grandchildren. And as I look around the room, we need more grandchildren to be aware of what happened. of what happened, not just in an academic way, but in the real living laboratory that is the Holocaust Center. So I congratulate Dr. FLUG for everything that he's done, but also what you're going to do in the future. Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I was on a stage in Manhattan with Elie Wiesel. We were protesting the presence of the president of Iran at the UN General Assembly, and the reaction to Mr. Wiesel from the crowd was just astounding. And I realized at that moment, of course, his purpose and mission in the world is not merely just to bear witness to what happened in the Holocaust, but to serve as a living reminder and an advocate for learning the lessons of what happened in the Holocaust and applying them to the world as it is today. As Dr. Marti said in his remarks, this is not a museum. It is a resource center, a place where the lessons of the tragedy of the Holocaust are learned and studied and applied to the challenges that we face in the world today. So for me, it's a great pleasure to be here, and I just want to say thank you to Dr. FLUG, Dr. Marti, to all the interns and everybody else who works at the center, to the Kupferberg family for their generosity, and of course, most importantly, to the survivors who give of their time and their memories and their history so that we can move forward together and hopefully be in a position to live and realize the saying, never again.
Step over here for a second, Will. Yes. Just give you this far. So I know that you know.
Okay. This is somewhat of a squeeze play. Before calling on Councilman David Weprin and having just spoken to Assembly Mark Weprin, I want to call on someone who was probably greater than the two of them, their mother, Sylvia Weprin. Sylvia, would you stand up? Sylvia, here you go. And the reason I call on Sylvia, I just found out there were two reasons I called on Sylvia. Dr. Marti said a fellow Cuban, okay? But I've also called on Sylvia representing her husband, Saul Weprin, Assemblyman and Speaker of the Assembly, who was initially involved in supporting the Holocaust Center. And we thank you both for that. And now I'd like to call on New York City Council member David Weprin.
Thank you, Arthur. And I don't know if it's a secret or not, but today is actually Dr. Arthur FLUG's 70th birthday. So I think that deserves a round of applause. And we hope to continue to celebrate with you, Arthur, for at least another 50 years to 120. You can applaud that. I'm completing my 8th year in the City Council and my 8th year as chair of the Finance Committee. But one of my first capital projects, and probably one of my most meaningful capital projects that I've done in my 8-year tenure in the City Council, was $1.5 million that I allocated for the Holocaust Resource Center. Which really was a small contribution in an overall process, but it was really a partnership which could not have been done without Harriet Kupferberg and the Kupferberg family, as well as the state of New York and the borough president, along with my colleague, Councilman Jim Gennaro. And I have an official City Council proclamation. I'm going to call Councilman Gennaro up to present with me. Here we go. If we could have Dr. FLUG, the birthday boy, and President Marti.
Okay. Jim, you want me in the middle?
No, you.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Councilman Gennaro to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Members of the clergy, Mrs. Katz, and all the Holocaust survivors that are here, the Kupferberg family, President Marty, Dr. FLUG, members of the dais, my colleagues in government, and friends of the Holocaust Research Center. A special shout out also to Mr. and Mrs. Herb Rosen of the Jewish War Veterans. Hey, Herb, how you doing? How'd I know that you were going to be here, Herb? God bless Herb. I was grateful for the privilege and the opportunity to support the center with public money, but I really want to thank in a special way all of you who supported it with your own money, with your milk money. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, and give yourselves a big round of applause for that. Thank you. And have to thank in a special way President Marty for his vision. Thank you, President Marty. Dr. FLUG, also a neighbor in Jamaica Estates. Joe Sciamma from St. John's, who's made such a contribution here. I thank all of you for your dedicated service to this wonderful center. And I want to thank in a special way my mother and dad, my father, who was a World War II veteran, my mother, who dedicated her life to religious education, who were good enough to teach me about the Holocaust, to teach me to stand up against hate. And I feel like I honor them in a very, very special way to be able to support this wonderful institution. So my parents, both of blessed memory, somewhere, Louis and Audrey are up in heaven, Catholic parents, shephing nachas. So imagine that. So it's just wonderful to be here at this very, very holy and wonderful place. And God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. And now as we come to the close, there are several things I have to point out. Number one, we're going to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony. This will definitely go on record as the largest scissors ever used in the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Okay? No, we got... Senator said we get that from Memorial. No, we didn't, Frank, but... And Frank, you are not the first person to ask that today. But I'd like to point out something, since we have such a large crowd here today, and since this is typically a Kupferberg Center event, strategically placed in this auditorium on my right-hand side and your left are refreshments. Okay? Behind me, in the well, are also refreshments. Now, I have to point out one thing. Knowing the crowds that come to the Kupferberg Center, there is more than enough here. There is more than enough. And number two, it's kosher, and it comes from Bagels & Co., located on 188th Street and Union Turnpike. Because a number of people have asked me regarding that question. After we have the ribbon-cutting ceremony, those of you who are interested, and I hope everybody is interested, we'd like you to follow us down the path into the Kupferberg Holocaust Center to see what we've been talking about the past 2 hours. One thing, you're allowed to touch. You can't take, but you're allowed to touch. You have any questions, I will be there, Ayala Tamir will be there, a host of docents will be there, so please. But before we do that, it's only proper that I ask Cantor Zim to return here and lead us in a very unique song, the Partisan Song. Cantor Zim.
The words they said many years ago, the partisans, those words were Sag nicht keinmal, as du gehst dem letzten Weg. Never say that we will give up. They didn't say never again, but they said never give up. And this was the song that was sung by the partisans. The Partisan Song. with all our might, proclaiming victory. We're here. We must survive. Sog nicht einmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg, von Himmeln bleiene verstellen bläue Tag, weil kommen weg noch unser abgewendtes Jahr. Es wird ab heute an unser Trott mir seinen da. Never say, my friend, we've reached the final end. Through hunger, pain, and sorrow, we must never bend. Never say, I will give up the fight and die. We must be strong, my friend, our enemies to defy. Es wird die Morgenson begilt in uns dem Heind, und der Nachten wird der schwinden mit dem Feind. Nur wo's gefahrte wird der Sonn und dem Kajar, wie a Parole soll das Lied von Dor zu Dor. We must walk in with pride in our eye. The world shall ne'er cry for Am Yisrael Chai. No more hiding, no more running from our foes. We are the chosen, to the war when we will go. No more hiding, no more running from our foes. We are the chosen, to Jerusalem we must go. Der Vater so kemur, als du gehst dem letzten Weg. Von Himmeln bleien verstellen, wo ist der Tag? Weil kommen wird noch unser Kampfjahr. Es wird abheugt an unser Trott, wir sind da. Never say I will give up the fight and die. We must survive, my friend, for Am Yisrael Chai.
Wow. Okay. I would like the following people before we move. B.B. Bernstein and Owen Bernstein to please come up. Members of the Mandelblatt family, Cheryl and Steve Levine, Dr. Sandra Delson, Owen Thee. I'd ask the rest of you to please partake in our refreshments and join us for our exhibits. Thank you.